This is the Amp Hour Podcast, released October 23rd, 2022. Episode 606, Professional Scooter Charger.
Welcome to the Amp Hour. I'm Dave Jones from the EEV blog.
And I'm Chris Gamble of Contextual Electronics.
How much is a smidge?
Smidge is 25 itty bitties.
25 itty bitties. Precisely 25 or rounded to 25?
That's actually how they standardized on it, was the 25 itty
Oh,
bitties.
right. Okay.
Yeah,
Just like the inch, huh? Just like your weird ass inch. Yep. They just had to go, well, it's 25.4 and I've got that right, haven't I?
That is right. Yeah, 25.4 millimeters.
Yes. They had to make it precisely because it wasn't always that. For those who don't know, the inch was not always precisely 25.4.
I mean, yeah, I think if there's one thing you could say about the inch is that it was never precise.
Right.
I'm amazed that NASA and their most scientific things in the US are still moved over, but I think actually a lot of military stuff still drives the military and just like mechanical. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. They like the fractionals.
Yep. Well,
not for me. Thanks. I'll take metric any day of the week.
Really? So you don't use any imperial at all for boards anymore?
No. I don't. I'll do that in work. I'm sorry.
Oh, right.
I will absolutely insist that a temperature sensor spits out Celsius, and then I'll look at my phone and be like, What the hell does this mean? How hot is it outside? 23 C? Is that hot or cold? I don't know.
Yanks.
So it's just
hilarious.
It's just we all got our things.
A smidge. All right. Because we were that came about because we were just testing our audio record levels just seconds before we started here, and you were saying I was a bit hot. I was peaking.
A smidge.
It's peaking a bit, and I turned it down a smidge, which isn't much. So a smidge on a what is a smidge on a single turn pot though? How many degrees? Degrees, as in, not degrees Celsius, but how many degrees? Radians. How many radians is a smidge on a control pot, on a single turn carbon control pot?
I'm always amazed that I would open up the old stuff at Keithley, and there would just be like literal pots in there. That was like
pots
technicians just turning those things.
They trimmed them everywhere. Yeah,
not super precise in that way.
I can't remember the last time I used a pot though, like in any sort of design.
Like it was. I was gonna say I used one in my. I think I talked about on the show electric water heater. I have electric water heater here, which I'm okay.
Yep.
But yeah, the control, I looked at the manual online because it was set kind of low, and it was like seriously like a 2-cent pot controlling this, whole thing.
Yeah.
I guess that's how you make money.
Well, they're probably more than 2 cents because there's a lot of
I don't know, Dave. These looked really cheap.
Oh, right. Okay. Really cheap. Oh, it's like one of those. So is it like a board trimmer or is it a pot? A potentiometer, because a potentiometer is one, I would say one that has like the case and it's like panel mounted. That to me is
right.
A pot.
I see what you mean. Yeah, this was more like a trimmer.
A trimmer, one of those PCB carbon. Yeah. Yep.
That's right. The blue square. It was a blue square.
Yeah. Fancy pantsy. Come on, that's the fancy
you're talking about
version. The blue square one. I'm talking about the Bakelite base on it with just the carbon trace and then just the metal clip on top, which then has a little slit in which you put your screwdriver in and you turn them.
Yep.
None of this enclosed blue enclosure rubbish. That's
how much
modern
can the Bakelite one cost? That's probably only half a cent,
Right. Pots. Oh, good.
Yeah. I mean, increasingly, I'm finding, my perspective has shifted a little bit in terms of like the my outlook in the electronics industry, and mostly it's because of like the things that I'm working on, right? Like IoT things. Like most IoT things, once the electronics are there and working, and there's not like complex stuff. It's like all of the focus is like past it, and I think about like putting putting smart firmware,
as in past the hardware you're talking about.
That's right. Yeah, once the hardware's there, it's like, okay, you're done. Don't touch it. It's like just get the sensor reading or get this button press or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then deal with all the other crap on the other side of it, right? The cloud side.
The cloud side, not even on the firmware side anymore, on the freaking cloud side.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I would put the firmware in the hardware. Like, once you have that firmware stuff pretty much set. But here's the other thing. I think a lot of it is the applications, and maybe just the applications I'm looking at, are relatively simple. But you think about like some of the biggest products that are out there that are this sector are like, like they're scooters, these stupid scooters that are all over the streets where I live, Durham, and, major cities in the US. I'm sure it's Sydney as well. There's nothing in there. It's like a modem. It's a motor speed controller, maybe. And then like, that's it. And like a
battery charger,
No, the battery charger is separate. It's like third party. It's not connected. Like maybe you're monitoring the voltage, but you're not doing the charging. It's just like, oh, is it charging or not? Yeah, it is. Okay, because they're not charging them on the street. They're charging them. Some person comes and picks them up.
I don't know. Where do they charge those things? Because they just leave them lying around the street. So who the hell does someone come around in the night and charge them up? What the hell?
That's right. Sometimes you'll see people like throwing them in the back of pickup trucks or utes, and
really?
Taking them to their house and plugging them into just standard chargers. Yeah, it's crazy.
What do you mean take them to their house? Do people individually own these things or what?
No. So like it's like they're basically like the other side of the like, so an Uber driver has like a customer. Like
so they
so like
provide
you're like an Uber
a
rider.
Service, right?
That's right. Yeah, so they get paid.
So you're an Uber charger.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. You're charged on demand. Yeah.
Is there is there a thing that you sign up for to become an Uber charger?
Mm-hmm. Well, not an Uber charger, but like a
scooter, the generic name. Uber is now kind of like the Xerox of it's right. Kind of like the right.
No, there is. That would actually be a pretty funny video to see what you should sign up for that in Sydney.
That would be hilarious. Yeah, that's why I'm curious to know. Like, where do I sign up to become an Uber charger?
I think if you find, what are like the popular scooters in your area?
Well, I don't know. See, because I'm out in the suburbs. We don't have them out here. I don't even know. I can't even remember the last time I went into the CBD or the city, as we call it.
Yeah, right. Yep.
And no, last time I saw them, I was down in Canberra earlier this year.
Okay.
I was down in Canberra and walking through the main streets of Canberra. They were everywhere. They were just, sitting there. You'd find one, you'd find a dozen clumped on, on a street corner, or one just left in the middle of a car park somewhere,
Oh, totally. Yeah.
So I don't know if we even have them in Sydney. I'm sure I literally don't know.
I would say a lot of the rideshare apps are like, partnering or buying companies that are scooter adjacent. So
right.
I'm amazed at some of the stuff that's out there these days. Like just like so I was in New York City a couple weekends ago. I was just, hanging out with some buddies, and like you can rent like a moped, and you can, you can just like rent a moped and get on it within like 30 seconds.
They had those in Canberra too. They had the scooters and the little sort of like little seaty mopedy thing. I think.
I feel like those are much more dangerous, and I don't know. Like you have to wear a helmet on those, and you don't have to wear a helmet on the other scooter. Yeah, right. It's crazy to me. Like I would not do that.
They supply a helmet, but I saw everyone riding around with their helmet was just hanging off the handlebars. Mm-hmm. So I guess nobody wants to put on a communal helmet.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably it. Yep. Oh boy.
Supply helmet.
All right, I've got to find out. I'll go around. I'll do a video. Go around at night collecting up all these scooters and see if I can make money from it.
You should. It'd be interesting to hear that experience.
Oh God, that's great. All right. I'm going to check it out after this.
As a charger. Yeah.
Yep.
Professional charger.
Yeah. Speaking of electric hot water thing. Yeah. I've ordered a heat pump system. Currently, we're gas hot water at home.
Yeah,
so yes, we're moving over.
You're talking about that in your
last
time we talked, right? Because you did the audit and you were signing.
Yeah, the audit and stuff. Yeah, we're switching up. I mean, we've wanted to do it for a long time. It's a much bigger tank. The tank we've got at the moment is tiny. In fact, we've been secretly hoping it would fail so that we'd have to replace it. The damn thing never has. And we just thought, oh, no, look, it's just, it's time to get one. It's like 2.5 times bigger. And it's a heat pump system. So it's got a coefficient of performance, a COP of like, I don't know, it's like 7 or something. It's pretty amazing. Like an aircon system will have like 4 or 5. And apparently these things are like...
so heat pump is like the opposite of an air conditioning, right? So like sorry, you use the term differently. So I'm thinking of like an air conditioning cooler, right? So like a compressor system and...
Here, and aircon does both. We use
both, right?
A reverse cycle aircon. We need to heat up and cool down here. So
right. Well, and they have those here too. I just don't use the term different. So, but I'm just saying,
right,
in a heat pump like you're talking about it, it's basically just using a compressor, but it's putting the cold side outside in order to heat up the inside part where the heater is, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's a separate heat pump box with a gigantic big fan on it, just like you'd get on an aircon.
Right. Yeah, it looks like one of those Panasonics or the ones that are out there, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So I'll send you the link to the one I'm getting. Here we go.
Yeah. What is like the relative power? I guess that's the other thing I don't know, especially when there's like things that are like gas based. Like gas has a particular heat output that is usually hard to match with electricity.
Gas is it's pretty hard to match. This thing I think takes about under a kilowatt. So like to actually heat. Right. Yeah. So like, whereas a normal hot water system, like you can divide the coefficient of performance. So it'll take like 7 kilowatts or something like that, right? Would be a typical, just standard element hot water system. Whereas this one, it takes under a kilowatt.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's pretty good. Yeah. I think that's what I have. Mine's like it's basically like a big tea kettle, right? I mean, it's like
Yep.
It's just heating with
and so they're more efficient. So yep, and it's got a timer on it, so I can set it to time during the day, so it only uses solar output.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So it's not smart like my Zappi charger. It's not tied. It doesn't have like a current transformer on there and only turns on when there's excess solar. You just have a timer-based system. But, the sun's pretty reliable. It does typically come up at a set time. It might be cloudy and everything else, right? But it at least comes up and sets at a pretty consistent time. So the laws of the universe have deemed it so.
I guess the only thing that would be tough about this is if you ran out of hot water by the morning when you want to take an early shower. That would be...
See, the thing is, our lifestyle is we don't shower in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So we do all our showering at night, so it's perfect. Like you use it during the day, you heat it up, and then we use it at night, and then it heats up the next day.
Change your lifestyle if you weren't like that, right? You'd be like, well, you're going to have hot water in the morning. I could shift a little bit, like.
Well, it's a much bigger tank. Like, so, it's about like 2.5 times the size we currently got, which is absolutely tiny, which often runs out, if we do take, if we do use, we can actually run out.
Yeah.
Yes. Mrs. EEV blog, not happy when hot water runs out. So, yeah, but the whole idea is that, it does have like an instant override thing or something. So if you want to, you can walk outside and, press the button, I guess. And it's not absolutely instant, but you can go, right, give me full power now, I'm desperate kind of thing. But no.
Wait, does that mean it's completely detached from the grid too? Like it won't use grid power?
Oh, no, it'll take power from the grid.
It will.
That's where it's getting it from. But when you've got a solar system during the day, it doesn't know the difference whether or not you're taking it from your solar panels or from the grid, right? It's actually going to take it locally from your solar panels, which is how it physically happens if you've got excess energy there. Yeah, and you can see that in your import and export meter. If you're exporting energy to the grid, then you know that everything on site is consuming it from the solar. So you can physically see it on the direction of the grid current. So it's cool. So it's made in Australia, although the heat pump is Japanese.
Okay.
So I guess we don't do.
What about like a payback period on that sort of thing? Because that's always
I don't know. It's pretty pricey. It's about $5,000, right?
Oh wow.
So it's pretty pricey, but we do get we can disconnect the gas entirely, so we'll have no gas connection charge anymore and no gas usage charge. But gas is pretty cheap here at the moment. Anyway.
For now, right? Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Long term,
for now, exactly.
That's a bad bet, but yeah.
Well, they have talked about some states here. I think Canberra, which is our capital. You've been there.
Yes, I have.
Yes, we drove around Parliament. We drove by Parliament House there. Yep. And Canberra has they've, I think, legislated that new gas connections are not allowed. Like,
that's right. Yeah.
In the next couple of years.
That's increasingly common. So New York City is like that too.
Right.
Not where I live, but in New York City, and I think maybe in DC as well. Any new construction I think you have to have some kind of like, maybe if you grandfathered in for the building or something like that, but I have no idea how. I think almost everything's going to be electric first.
Yep.
In the big cities. And it's at the city level. It's not like state or
which is kind of silly because gas is incredibly efficient and it's not hugely polluting. Like it's, gas is pretty good. Gas,
yeah. I
mean, if you want to use your dinosaur energy, gas is pretty good.
I agree with that. Yeah, I think that's a good way to say it. Yeah. I think, I think they're basically just trying to juice the market basically for high end customers that could afford it otherwise, and then more people are making
that's
stuff,
the problem. Like these things are expensive, right? Gas is cheap. To buy a gas, hot water system is incredibly cheap, and they last forever, right? Ours has lasted for 30 years, right? Yeah. It's still going. Yeah. And it's it's simple. Whereas these heat pump systems and EVs and everything else that everyone, governments want to push on to us, right? Yeah, it's only for the people that have, decent means to afford this sort of stuff. It isn't for the people who are just scraping by.
Oh, totally. I think it's just a way to
let them eat cake. As the
yeah, I don't think it's about that. I think it really is about driving demand, right? And you legislate towards that sort of stuff,
Oh yeah, no, that's what happened with solar panels here.
Yeah, once
they actually gave us 50 cents, 60 cents per kilowatt hour feed-in tariff, and all these government subsidies, and so now 35% of homes in this country have solar on them.
Yeah, it's
like good. It is the highest uptake in the world, I believe.
Right, and I bet a lot of them are doing the same kind of math that you are now, right now. And then you're saying, well, I have this extra power now. What do I do with it? Oh, maybe I should switch up. Maybe it does make sense.
Heat pump systems. Yeah. So we can afford the $5,000 to buy the heat pump system. So we can afford to take that financial hit now. And I did calculate it. It should pay back 5-6 years, something like
nothing.
that. Six, maybe 7 at a stretch.
I did a payback on my solar here. I looked at solar and I had some people give me quotes and stuff like that.
Yep.
It was like 18 years. It was like really long time because there's not many incentives in my state.
There's not incentive. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and like the pay, I have a newer house, so it's pretty efficient anyway. So I don't use a ton of energy in the summer, which is always peak time. And so it's just like the bulk power coming from the grid is just a better deal, and so it's harder to make that math work, right? Whereas if they spike the energy costs 100%, then that knocks that time down quite a bit.
Exactly. But you've got a small roof though. I've seen your roof, and it's like you could barely fit any, which is almost
it's a weird roof. I have a little bit more roof space because we did a little construction, but the real thing is my neighbor's tree.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that blocks probably, I don't know what the trade-off would be like. It blocks probably 9 a.m. to about 11:30 a.m. Like pretty much all morning sun. It blocks. So it's like, that's another thing that doesn't make any sense right now.
Yeah.
But if that ends up coming down at some point in the future, then it does make sense actually, probably. So
right.
Yeah. It's just math. Just got to keep the only way out of the climate crisis is economics. Unfortunately, I think I don't know any other ways out. So
I did actually there is actually government subsidies on this. So that figure I'm quoting is after the government subsidies. There's actually 2 government subsidies I claim. One is a state government, one's federal, I think. Something like that. They've got these schemes to, so yeah, but it's still not cheap, right? It's still a pretty pricey system. For my original 3 kilowatt solar power system, I paid $5,000, and that included, that was 9 years ago now, and that included the government rebates and stuff.
Right.
It's but I've done a payback thing on that, and it did pay back itself after 5 years, something like that. Even though I bought a top of the line system, so
think about how much it paid back just in videos. Just in videos, Dave. Think about how much that paid back.
Yeah, I know. Just in videos. Yeah, that doesn't include videos. So I actually have made it probably paid itself off in a couple of years if you include the. Yep. Well, I don't make much revenue from the videos. A good video I'll make a couple $100 maybe. But I guess if you make a dozen videos, it adds up.
Yeah, I bet you have.
Anyway, so yeah, I'll be making a video on this one. So there you go.
See,
so
there you go.
Exactly.
You just got to amortize your cost over videos.
Yep. That's it. So and the good thing is I'll be able to measure the energy get energy measurements of it and how much it takes, and then it'll be interesting to compare it to the actual energy usage from the gas hot water system. But you can't really do that because you can't know, because I can't know how much water's being used. You would have to know. So to do the volumetric energy calculation for the gas heating, you would have to know the volume of water that you've used, that's heating up. So, okay, you've used X amount, and then the heater's turned on, and it's got to, heat up that, and you've got to know the ambient temperatures. You've got to take that into account, and the incoming water temperature, the delta T, and you can do it in a lab. Like if you're actually designing this sort of product, you can do it.
I thought about doing this sort of thing. I've been looking for IoT kind of applications and just monitoring water flow. You probably want to put an inline water meter.
You'll put an inline flow meter or something.
You could do that, but I would think maybe even you do an accelerometer and do some associative type data, maybe. I don't know.
Accelerometer?
Yeah, measure vibration coming through the pipe, that sort of thing. You can measure. God.
How do you correlate?
It's big data, Dave.
Big data, right?
That is the magic wand of the IoT
You can
space.
extract any data you want as long as you have enough of it.
That's right. How do you make up for it? How do you make up for lack of knowledge? Volume.
Oh God. No.
Yeah, that's true. Lack of knowledge. Volume.
Oh God. How do you make money on free software? Volume.
Things that made my lack of knowledge very evident. Your show with Kathy last week was great, man. She's awesome.
Cool. Yeah, no, she's great. I had fun. That's why it went for an hour. I didn't want to cut it at an hour and 40 minutes, but I thought, holy crap. Like I said, it's going to be well over 2 hours, and we do try to limit the show to an hour now. But I was having so much fun, and we'd only started. We'd barely started to scratch the surface, so maybe we can get it back on and we can systematically go through the history rather than,
Well, here's another thing. We need to get some more reviews. She's only got 8 ratings on Amazon or whatever your book review of choice is. So $10 on Kindle. You can get it now. Go send some reviews her way.
Yes, if you get it from her, please. Yes, please review it.
#1 new release of electronics and technology. So that is a narrow category. But
although I just heard on her Patreon, she did hit #1 bestseller though. But I guess nobody's leaving a review. But
in history of, that's what I said, in history of engineering and technology. That's what I'm saying. That's a very narrow category.
Right. but still,
But still, that's great. I mean, that's great.
You can say you're a #1 Amazon bestseller.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. No, it's good. I'm really enjoying the book. Haven't finished it yet. But yeah.
All right, we should take some bets. Who's going to finish this first? I just bought it, and Dave's had it for a week and a half. I bet I finish it first. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I suck at reading books.
That's all right, man.
Yep, I just don't have the attention span to.
Yeah, it's all about the Kindle at night. I can't do. I would never be able to do it if it wasn't for the Kindle at night. I wouldn't read it all, pretty much.
Well, that's how I try and do it, but I find I'm just so tired. I last 15 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, and then I'm done.
15 minutes, they add up. That's all. That adds up, let me tell you.
I know. Yeah, if I do it every night, does that up. But yeah.
Put the Kindle under your pillow. That's the the life hack. Kindle goes under the pillow.
Yep. Yeah, but I can't do it for more than 20 minutes, probably.
Oh, no, definitely not.
It's anyway. So there you go. I'll let you know. And there's a lead time on these things. Apparently they're very popular. So made here in Australia.
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
Cool.
So I'll let you know. I'll be doing videos and we'll get some measurements. But yeah, I was surprised by the how little power it takes. So with a COP of 7, I think it is. So bloody amazing. Anyway, I didn't think they could get that high, but no, it's really good. Very impressed. Anyway, that'll give us some energy independence, the goal is so that, one of the side benefits, if you want to put your conspiracy theory hat on, is that, well, the government can't turn off my gas, because I don't use any, right? I'll just generate it from my own solar panels. Screw you, like, yeah.
Although I think just the price invariance is really nice.
Yeah, the price variance, people have, the government has said, prices are going up.
Yeah, totally. So, I think that's pretty much, that's a new truism, I think, generally,
Yeah.
So.
But if you're sorry to all our, I was going to say viewers, listeners in Europe who are just getting absolutely,
they're getting slammed,
screwed. It's just, it's like, things haven't gone up 10, 20% inflation style. They've gone up, hundreds of percent,
multiples,
500%, many hundreds of percent, even sometimes thousands. Some people have sent me on Twitter. They've sent me, the actual numbers, and it's just in their country, and it's just horrific.
It's going to be
unbelievable. Energy. It's all about the energy, man. Yep.
Yeah.
Who holds the energy holds the power.
So, I am really surprised. I've been reading about startups that are like legit trying fusion stuff, and
come on. There's news every week about.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, the fact that it keeps getting funding. How does it keep getting funding, Dave? I guess a lot of things get funding, but
the dream, people buy into the dream,
It would be nice though.
How did people fund Theranos?
Yeah.
How did they fund
That's true.
That EV truck startup that was a fraud? How do they it's the dream. People buy into the dream.
Yeah.
How'd they fund Ubeam? They buy into the dream. Solar Roadways, they buy into the dream.
I don't think that was VC. Was that VC funded?
Which one?
Solar Roadways.
Solar Roadways.
Like they were.
Government bought into the dream, but that's just virtue signaling. So Yep. The actual politicians don't have dreams. They just
a bit of a kerfuffle about this. So we've talked on the show about how $54 billion in the U.S., much of which is going towards building a $20 billion Intel factory in Ohio, right? We talked about that. We were pretty excited about that on here. Turns out...
warning.
They're laying people off. What do you know?
Welcome to capitalism, it's, welcome to a publicly listed company that has to make a profit, I mean, it's not magic, right?
Yeah, I think
if the share market slumps, the company has to make cuts, right?
Yeah.
The end, right? It doesn't matter what the government is spending.
Right. I think the thing that's not stated in this article, or maybe it was stated. I mean, so they're talking about mostly like the fact that like the Intel Ohio site doesn't match with the people they're laying off. Blah blah blah. Totally legit. Yeah, that's a good argument. But I feel like understated in a lot of these things is like, they're not doing this just they're talking about like investment and blah, 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 blah. It's like, this is all because of China. This is like 100%. Every single dollar spent in the US on a new fab is because like, oh yeah, China's giving Taiwan the big stink eye right now,
have us by the short and curlies,
Yeah, right.
And,
right, exactly.
They've really, they were happy to do that before when the status quo was a little bit in their favor. As soon as it starts to shift a little bit, they go, oh, geez, I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable now. I think I want control of my own balls now.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Here's the thing that I was thinking about. The people that are not catching enough shit about all this stuff and is all of the people that sent this work over to TSMC in the first place, right? All of the MBA playbook goofballs.
Every company that offshore
that said, I mean, like, man, they're like this. It hasn't come up once, but like, what did you think was going to happen? Like, of course it was. And like, they'll all come back and say, well, what else were we supposed to do? Our costs were going up and blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, it's called investment, folks. You got to just give up a little bit in order to hold on to your own destiny. Like, man, exactly. I know I'm not a CEO. I don't think like a CEO. I will never be a CEO aside from, Chris Gamble Incorporated. And like, that's fine. I'm not a Silicon executive, but damn, what'd you think was going to happen?
Well, it's the same with the Brexit thing. It's like, well, if you hand over your country to unelected European Parliament, what do you think's going to happen? Okay, but yes, there's going to be cost in getting that sovereignty back, right? A lot of people go, oh, look how much Brexit's costing, right? It's like, yeah, all the Brexiters come out and, yeah, you're not going to agree. A whole bunch of people are going to spam the comments and, not agree.
I don't think that's the same situation. That's what I'm really saying
there.
But
it's
I can see what you're saying of like,
there's similar parallels, right?
Sure, if you're giving up control to a centralized authority, but they still had like some input into that authority, right? So I think you can see how that's a little different there. If you're going to a third-party company in a different country with no input, you're just a customer.
I know,
right?
I know. I just wanted to share the parallels.
Okay, I would. So here's one that I would maybe say is like if you were like had in-house HR as a company, right? And you say we're gonna do all of our own payroll, we're gonna deal with our own healthcare benefits in the U.S., which of course do other places. If you're gonna deal with all of the complaints or whatever, and now you say we're gonna completely outsource it to like just some third-party company, and then it's like, oh, and by the way, that company just got bought, and we don't like the new ownership of that external HR company. That like what did you think was going to happen, right? It's like that is the cost.
You can insert any business thing there. It could
I guess any third party
manufacturing anything. It could be anything.
Yeah, that's true. Everything should be vertically integrated, Dave. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right. Okay. Every company should do it all themselves. Right.
Chris just got fired as the CEO, so that's
exactly. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I get that there are constraints and costs and all that other stuff, but like in some of these cases, I'm just upset that it left in the first place.
And there is pain to get it all back. And that is the thing, whether it's a whole country or whether it's a little manufacturing line, whether it's a HR department, whether it's a sales department, whether it's a accounting department, you can offshore your accounting to somebody else and then right?
Sure. I think the thing that's also in there though is like the tribal knowledge that comes out of that, or that is lost in that transition. It doesn't come back as easily, right? Like you might be able to bring back investment, whatever, but like that's.
It almost grows anew. It almost grows new from scratch. Not quite from scratch, but it doesn't just magically come back and be the same as what it was.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like I think about like the thing I'm really talking about that got me kind of in my hyper mode here was when there was, I think it must have been like 2012, 2013. It was when I think Analog Devices and TI, maybe it was a little later than that, but like Analog Devices and TI both announced within a relatively short time span where they said, we're not going to develop any more analog nodes in-house. We're going to mostly shift to TSMC. I might be getting that wrong. If you're at TI or Analog Devices, you can tell me I'm wrong, whatever. But I remember there was a bunch of news stories about that, and it was like they're going to lose that. They just aren't going to know how to make their own analog nodes that is the differentiator.
Sure.
That was the whole thing. Like why? How do you differentiate? And the answer is they don't care. They just needed to make more parts, and maybe that was the right business decision. But when you lose that knowledge of how to do that tweaking of the process node, and you outsource all that to other people, like you're gonna pay the price at some point. I think they're gonna pay that coming back as well, right? They still have some of the knowledge, but I don't know.
Well, you have to define what the right business decision is in quote marks. Is it short term? Is it long term? You can say, oh yeah, it's right in the short term.
Yeah, right.
And then you can completely come a guts. Yeah, exactly. I got my bonus and I was out of there, and I, yep.
Yeah.
And so, yep. But there's always a price to be paid for buying back in, so to speak.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Into anything, really.
Right.
Like, the same thing happens with your investments. If you panic sell or something, there's it might have been a good decision at the time, but long term you might go, I should have just held on to them. That was like a dumb move, right? But it would seem right at the time, and you pat yourself on the back, and then there's tons of parallels like that in life, so, and business.
Yeah, business.
Oh boy, can we talk about hobbies?
Sure. What you have hobbies? I don't have any hobbies. Reading.
This is one of my hobbies. You're listening to one of my hobbies right now.
Well, yeah. That I mean, I would say like electronics is kind of like a broad hobby for me, but I wouldn't have. Yeah. Anyways, go ahead.
Anyway, I'm probably going to make a video on this today. I think a blab video. Because this come from a EV blog forum thread. I won't bother linking it in because you'd have to read the whole lot. But basically, somebody posted, is the Rigol MSO 5000 scope overkill for a hobbyist? So I'd like to raise the question. At what point does an instrument become overkill for a hobbyist? I will actually send you
That is a classic amp hour discussion topic.
It is a classic one, and I don't think we've ever had it. Now, my argument is going to be from my video today, even though I don't write scripts, I pretty much know what I'm going to say. I
think about it on the drive-in, right?
I just think about it on the fly. But this is pretty. What comes out on my video is pretty much the thought that pops into my head, right?
Yeah.
So what I think.
Well, give us a range here too, because I think some of it is price dependent.
Yes,
some of it
totally
is
price
specs
dependent, and that's what I wanted to talk about. Right, is for an oscilloscope, right? The traditional, when I was a boy, the traditional entry level price was $800, right? $800 got me Aussie bucks. I'm talking, right? Got me my first dual channel 20 megahertz analog scope, right? Yeah. Decent brand, right? Dual channel 20 megahertz analog.
I think that it is interesting to lock it to a price point as well, because the caliber of what you can buy for that price changes over time as well. It's generally gotten much better.
That's what I'm going to get into, yes. And then when digital scopes came out, the first really affordable hobbyist digital scope was the Rigol 1052E. 1052E, right? The DS 1052E, which I also bought, and that was, shock horror, about $800, right? Once it reaches that price point, right? And then, right, but now, okay, let's talk about this particular case, right? With the Rigol MSO 500, how much does that cost? About $800, Yankee bucks. This is right, and it's a pretty high-end scope for $800, and you can hack it, and you can get the logic analyzer, and you can get everything else in the function gen, and you can get the extra bandwidth. You can hack the thing. Right, but the base model is only $800, right? But the new benchmark in
the 5074 is cheaper than the 5072. The 4-channel is cheaper than the 2-channel. That's weird. Yeah.
Oh, I have to check that out. All right.
That's interesting. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, it is $800. I was just looking at
it. Right, $800. But then actually going back to the Rigol 1052E, right? That was $800, but then that almost halved to like $400, and it's still about $400. Not that one, but the 1054Z, which is a 4-channel version, is about $400, right? So that's it. So $400 is about the entry level price point for a decent hobbyist scope. You can get cheaper. You can get like a Handtech or an O1 2-channel giant. Exactly. The price difference there doesn't really justify it.
Yeah, it's like a cliff. You have to scale.
You've got to scale. I think. Because
I think there are some like legitimate things about like either having a front end ADC or just even like the plastics and everything that's in there, power supply, whatever. So yeah.
And usability things and bugs. Sure. There's a whole bunch of things, right? And it's 2-channel versus 4-channel, whereas I think nobody should be buying a 2-channel scope anymore, right? A 4 channels has become like the minimum, especially when you can get one for like $400, right?
And we should say as well, like $400 is still a stretch for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's still a stretch for a lot of people, sure. And in that particular case, I would say, there's nothing wrong with a $200 cheapie, right?
Yeah.
But if you can, I would sort of set that minimum threshold. I would climb that wall, do whatever you can to climb that wall to get that $400 scope.
Yeah.
And really, as much as an analog fanboy as I am, right? No, it's not worth getting that $50 analog scope, right? Yeah, sure enough, if you can pick one up for $50 or free, maybe.
I tried doing that when I was tried like looking through like all the super low end scopes when I was starting contextual electronics, and it was like nothing. There's nothing there. It was like 100 kilohertz max.
Right. Yeah. No, it's those little toy things. It's those little pocket toy things, and some people rave about those, and they're just they're just crap.
Because especially if you're a beginner, that's the other thing is that like if you're a beginner,
it's frustrating.
You're gonna run into things like anti-aliasing and just other stuff that like you're gonna just be out of your league already just from the start because you've got subpar equipment. You're trying to visualize stuff. You're trying to buy a project. You're trying to buy a tool. So yeah.
And they're so tedious to use. Have you ever tried to use one? Oh, they're so fiddly and just garbage. And they're just I
tried to teach with them, Dave.
Don't do it. Right. Anyway, so and they're not really getting any better. So no, I would say $400 entry level. Now, can you say that the $800 one is now overkill? I don't think so. I would probably put My argument will be that I would say overkill for hobbyist use would be once you enter the 4-digit range, right? Now, there's a huge jump between a 2-channel cheapie no-namer and that 4-channel Rigol or Siglet, right? At $400. There's a really good jump there, right?
Yeah.
And there's a kind of a decent jump from $400 to $800. You get the much bigger screen, touch screen interface, you get higher sample rates, you get more memory, you get, so there's nicer sort of stuff. So you can argue that, okay, if you want to make the jump to the $800 level, then that's okay. But the interesting thing is, just for a general use scope, a $400 scope, that 4-channel Rigol or Siglet scope, right, for $400, that is going to do you literally forever for general use, right? Now, I'm talking just general daily use, their regular requirements. You just want to look at a signal, right? It is going to do the job fantastically forever, right? It doesn't go obsolete.
Yeah, I think the only thing,
if you have specific, unless you have specific, I'm talking general use, right? I'm not talking specific requirements.
Yeah, as long as you're not like hoping to have you can't, like, 1054Z doesn't have a built-in
logic analyzer.
So
correct.
You can't upgrade there, but you could always supplement that. There are cheaper logic analyzers. I think.
Oh, you can get a USB-based logic analyzer and stuff like that. Yeah, mixed signal. But that's something you buy up front, which is another reason why you might go for the $800 one, for example.
Yeah.
Versus the $400
I think
one. But I'm talking about just an everyday use scope. You probably, that'll last you forever. Or you could go up front and say, oh, I don't know, maybe I'll spend a bit more coin. I'll spend the $800 and get the.
I mean, you get another 50 or 20 megahertz, and maybe slightly higher quality output.
Yeah, but you get a larger screen, greater resolution, touch screen. Yep. You get maybe more decoders and stuff like that, and you can hack these things. You have to remember, right? So, and you get a higher sample rate, and all sorts of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
I think I have never, when I've had some high end scopes, and I had a 1054Z before I gave mine away, and it was my daily driver anyways, because it was just simpler to use. It was just like, okay, I'll just use this.
Yeah. So. Right. But I would argue that once you're spending over $1,000 on a scope, that is over. I would say that's overkill for hobby
overkill
use.
For whom? Oh, for hobby use.
Well, yeah, just as a general hobbyist. Okay, I'm interested in electronics. I'm setting up a lab, and you wouldn't go and spend a couple of $1,000 on a scope.
No,
it's just
because you've got so many other things to buy as well.
Yeah,
that's the thing that I think is
overkill.
People don't take it. They take it in isolation. Like, oh, I can afford a $1,200 scope. It's like, yeah, but you want to buy a decent power supply and a nice DMM and a maybe and
soldering
source meter,
iron, and you want to buy a fume extractor, and you want to buy all sorts of toys and ESD matting and all sorts
stuff.
Of You want to buy a mill, screwdrivers, and a thermal camera, and all sorts of.
It really doesn't stop. It doesn't.
No,
stop,
it doesn't stop. Exactly.
Yeah.
So you would be in agreement that maybe it stops at that 4-digit.
I think. I mean, it's going to depend on people's budget, of course, right? It depends.
Yeah, but I would say, once you go over that, you get in. What do you get in? You're paying for extra bandwidth.
I think that might be the way to say it. Is there might be certain corners of the hobby, right, where you say, you do need it.
There's always corners. There's always corners, right?
Right. But I'm saying that it's worthwhile to actually lay that out and say, well, when are you going to have to spend more on a scope versus otherwise, right? I would say, like, if you're doing RF stuff, you better open your wallet.
Well, here's where you go to secondhand, old, used, right? Yeah. If you want bandwidth, like if you want a 1 gig bandwidth scope, for example, go to the used market. Right? There's lots of old, because you're not going to use that as your daily driver, right?
I get it. But what I'm saying is, like, you need to say, because this is often people asking this at the beginning, I feel you have to be very explicit, because they say, oh, I do want to do RF. It's like, no. When do what are you really going to be doing every day?
Yeah, what are you really going to be doing with RF? You're probably going to be using a module, right? You're probably going to be using a pre-certified module, right?
Yeah. I think it's really about, like, I don't know. People tried to tell me this when I was getting started as well, and I didn't listen at all. Right? I mean, like nobody's gonna actually listen. It's fine. We're just,
of course,
we're just up here talking. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, I think it's really about drawing lines around when you actually do need to get outside of that realm of the 50 megahertz scope. So it's like, all right, are you actually clocking? You need to see the analog signals for your 100 megahertz microcontroller. Are you sure you can't get away with the digital, logic analyzer? Like, you sure you can't get away with that? Maybe you can. Have you thought about it? Have you tried it? Like, have you looked it up online? Here's some resources, like those kind of things. That's where I feel like you just need to really like beat people over the head with it,
But even those 4-channel entry-level $400 scopes, they're 200 meg bandwidth, right? You can hack them to 200 meg bandwidth, and that's
I forgot about that. Yeah,
that's plenty for general use, right?
Yeah.
In fact, once you start talking 500 meg, right? That's the limit of actual passive probes, right? Pretty much.
Right,
okay,
exactly.
Okay. Tektronix do actually make a 1 gig passive probe. Okay, the new Roden Schwartz. I just got the new Roden Schwartz MXO. That's a 1.5 gig scope, right? I've got it sitting on my bench right now. I'm pointing at it, even though this is radio. I'm pointing at it. And it comes with 750 meg probes because that's the passive probe limit, right? You've got to go to exotic active probes pretty much at the 500 meg. That's kind of like the limit. So, it's like,
And a beginner never needs that. I mean, I just,
no, right?
It's almost like, we need to have like an application form where it's like, all right, state your case. Why do you think you
want
to
buy this oscilloscope? Yes,
why do you think you need this extra, state your case here, and we're going to tell you why you're wrong, probably. You might be right. I mean, like there might be some corner cases that are right, but it's going to be the exception, not the rule. So,
and we'll send it up the management ladder, and they may approve the purchase order. This oscilloscope. Yeah. Yes. But yeah, okay. So yeah, I would say, pretty much if you're spending over $800, definitely over $1,000 on a scope, that is overkill. Yeah, that is overkill. How much do you spend on a multimeter? I reckon you're spending more than a couple $100 on a multimeter. Overkill.
I mean, I get most of my multimeter secondhand from Dave shipping snafus. So
still happening.
I don't. Yeah, almost all of my equipment is secondhand at this point. All of my Keithley gear was secondhand. I got gifted some. Obviously we're in a special scenario.
Oh, like companies give me stuff. It's like, it's just one of the perks of being a YouTuber, I guess.
I think the only thing I'm looking at my bench right now. I think the only thing I spent like higher than average money on that I'm really glad I did was my Thermaltronics soldering iron. That was a good purchase, and it wasn't that much. I mean, like it was a lot for soldering iron versus like what a beginner needs, but I really like it, and I think it's good, and it's it's like a JBC. What is the other? Oh, it's a Metcal clone.
Yep.
And I have like cheapy Chinese stuff otherwise, right? Like my camera and screens are cheap, and what else do you need? I barely do electronics anymore.
Somebody just sent me a link to Heiko released a new soldering iron. It looks pretty good. It's like 400 watts or something. It's pretty decent. Then I checked the price. It's like $1,000 right?
Oh my! Wow.
It's like, geez, maybe $900 on special. And it's like, well, that's overkill. Okay, it's probably a very nice soldering. I'm sure it is, but it's not for a hobbyist to be buying.
Yeah, right? Exactly. When you're getting into like high-end soldering
value to be had.
It's all about like production, like instant hot, like super precise temperature dialed in sort of thing. I don't. Is it cartridge style or is it dial style?
Yes, it's a no. Well, it's dial. You can dial in the temperature, but it uses a direct heat tip.
Oh,
so
okay.
it's Yep. No, it's not a Curie point temperature tip swapping thing. No.
Yeah, I like that. I prefer that personally.
Really? I don't.
Oh yeah, it's so easy. Oh man, no. I want simplicity in my life, Dave.
No,
simplicity.
Simplicity is turning a knob, dude.
No way.
Simplicity is not changing your tip because I'm going to change from this identical chip to this identical tip just because it's got a different temperature. That's vastly harder.
Who changes it because of the temperature? You change because of the tip style, and then it's just right there. It's dialed in. You're good to go. It's great.
No. I like being able to tweak the temperature for special jobs. No.
All right. Well.
Yeah. Nope.
Agree to disagree. No, you know what I need to upgrade is my hot glue gun. That's what needs an upgrade.
Yeah, I've got a shit hot glue gun. I don't have like a real top.
It's like one of those things where you look at it and you're like, how often do I need this? And then when you're in the middle of it, you're just like pumping hot glue into something.
Right, I got one of those $5 hardware store jobs.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. There's a lot of stuff like that, like I should have more X-Acto knife blades around, like stuff that I use like all the time.
Yep.
Oh well.
You know, decent set of pliers, you know, like a nice brand set of pliers, you know, cutters, nice set of flush cutters.
Yeah, I like flush cutters.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. That's what people should start with. Should be like, here's the checklist. Once you have these, you know, like once you get to this, it's like a video game. We have to like earn your way up, and then finally you do an unlock on the oscilloscope.
Did I do a video on flush cutters? What are the best electronic side cutters? Yes, I did. I can link it in. What are the? I thought I did. It was part of my live show, so I extracted the rant from my live show. There it is. There. Yeah. Top electronic side cutters. I was going to get EV Blog branded side cutters, actually.
Do they really differentiate that much? I mean, if they don't snap off in your hand, I feel like they're not terrible, but I suppose
right. They're not terrible.
I have low needs as well. Like, yeah, mine.
Well, I've got good brand ones and I've got crap brand ones, and the crap brand ones are the ones you use for like cutting stuff you really shouldn't be cutting with them.
Yeah, exactly.
Like metal cans and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, right. So, you like should be using tin snips or something.
Yeah, I should use tin snips, but I just get my side cutters to cut this RF can off. You know. And then you wonder why they chip and blunt and the jaws don't
I wish
close.
I would have. I wish I had more of around my lab. I actually had this thought earlier this week as I was trying to do it. Is like I never have enough 2.54 millimeter or 25.4 millimeter or it's 2.54 millimeter or 0.1 inch headers, right? Like I just never have enough of those around, and they're always buried in project boxes. But I should have just like one box that's just like headers you'll need to solder stuff to other stuff. That's like what I really need around.
That is one of the things that I have in my dedicated rotary parts drawer. I've got pin headers, right? I've got right angle pin headers, straight pin headers, right? They're in dedicated drawers. They're not in my project bags. I would not keep those in my That's the kind of stuff I wouldn't keep in a project bag. That goes straight to the pool room, as we say here, and the pool room being your rotating parts cabinet. Yeah. You know,
so I like that. And another one I had recently was mating plugging cables, right? So if I want to bodge a 2-pin cable onto something, so I don't want to like solder directly to it, or if I do, I want to solder it once and then put hot snot all over it and just like hot glue it down and then never ever touch it again. But I do want to have it pluggable. I want to have a mating 2-pin pluggable pair there, right? So like batteries or a switch or something like that. And I don't have enough of those around either. I'm always scrounging for like I need to get like the pre-crimped wires inserted into the 2-pin headers of different sizes. That's like what I need to like outfit my lab with that stuff. But it's like one of those things where like, when do you go and just, nobody's going on DigiKey to shop for, just the connectors. Ooh, yeah, I'm going connector shopping today. This is exciting,
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. That's why I just sent you a link to my under bench storage shelves, right, and little trays they're actually rather large trays that pull out. And I've pretty, like I started out by having like half of them have like cables and stuff in them. Some other had like camera gear and other stuff, but I've slowly transitioned to almost all of them being cables of some description. I've got 3 different types of banana cables. I've got the 4mm banana jack to 4mm. I've got the 4mm to alligator clips. I've got alligator clips to alligator clips, and it's got and then I've got mains, and then I've got straight main. I've got regular mains cables. Then I've got weird ass mains cables, and then I've got measurement mains cables, which are death leads with bare ends, or or they got 4mm banana plugs on them that plug into energy monitors and all sorts of stuff. And then I've got a multimeter leads section. Then I've got an exotic multimeter leads section, which has little parrot clips and other little like various exotic things for clipping onto stuff. And I've just like transitioned over to almost all the drawers are just some sort of connecting lead. It's just like
that's like the daily driver type of stuff that you need. You just need to have around, right?
And you need it. It's so frustrating if you don't, if it's not there.
Yeah, well, I think the hard part there is putting it back in the container when you're done. That's always the hard part.
I'm bad at that. Yeah, I just leave it on. I'll just leave it on the bench there because I might need it tomorrow. No, put it back in the bloody tray. You idiot. And yep. Yeah.
This is what we need generic robots for, is just to clean up our labs for us.
Right, yeah, clean up the lab. Yeah, I'd definitely buy one of those Tesla
bots. Sure, they would be
bots
great
just
at
for
that.
Yeah. Oh boy, I thought about maybe getting like a student or something in just to organize my lab. Like,
you wouldn't know where anything is then.
Huh?
You wouldn't know where anything is then. If they're doing all the organizing,
yeah,
where do
but
they go?
it's then it'll be labeled, right? It'd all be sorted, and like getting stuff out of my old project bags and putting that, filling up my shelf, right? It's a week's work just sorting stuff into my rotating parts cabinet, right? It's just like
You just need to take a week off. Put on a good audiobook and do it yourself. Go into like Zen organization mode. I say this because I will never ever do this myself. Although I did shove a bunch of stuff in my lab into one corner, so I wouldn't count that as cleaning.
I just posted an exclusive video actually over on my Odyssey channel. If you follow me on Odyssey, I put exclusive videos over there. One of them just this week is cleaning up my bunker.
I saw that, and I can't believe people watch that crap. I'm going to be honest.
Right.
You watched him do what?
Yep. Well, you didn't actually see me clean it up. I basically went through the boxes of what was all tossed on the floor and stuff.
Well,
I basically went through stuff that was there.
Bad marketing on your part, I got to say, because it sounded like you were just cleaning up.
No, I was not cleaning up. I basically went through I showed you what's in a lot of the boxes and just random shit, and then I showed you the after. Oh, here it is. I magically cleaned it all up.
Yeah.
And it feels so good. Oh, it feels so good. Yeah. Yeah. And that happens here in the lab, but I'd never take a week off. I can't do it. But, if I take like half a day, often I've taken half a day to sort of clean up things and sort things and organize things, and always feels pretty good, but I should go for the full Monty, So, yeah.
You'd like hire someone, you're saying, right?
It'd probably, I don't know. But yeah, it'd take me, like, if I did it myself, yes, I would have to take a week off. I'd have to just go, look, that's it. Sorry. I'm not looking at YouTube. I'm shutting it all down, and I'm going to take a week, Yeah. So, yeah, it's painful. Just can't, Yeah.
Yep. Not speaking of anything, I just saw something that I wanted to talk about before we wrap up. Did you happen to see the Hackaday badge that will be at the SuperCon that I will be at in a couple weeks that I'm very excited about?
I did see it. It popped up on Twitter somewhere. Isn't it like gone old school and it's just got LEDs and gates and stuff or something?
It's a custom processor. It's a 4-bit CPU.
A 4-bit CPU, right.
And you can basically like manually enter all the commands using the push buttons on the front, and then you can like watch it go through the various stages of processing and stuff like that. And all I could think is, boy, I'm not going to do anything with that, but it looks cool.
What have they done it with? I haven't got the link here. What have they done? Is it done with like 4000 series, or is it
in the recording?
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah,
there it is.
It is done on a PIC 24, I believe.
Oh, that's not the same. What? No, that's not.
But
what?
Matt Venn of A to Z Basics A to Z, the course that teaches you how to design stuff, he's got a prize going right now for people that want to potentially redesign that 4-bit CPU in open silicon. So he'll get it into one of the slots, and also he'll give you like a free membership to the course, I think. So
right. Okay, so but for those who want a visual picture of this, on the front of the board is like little like sea of gates, right? It's got different sort of gates. It's got like a full adder, it's got an accumulator and stuff like this, right? And so it's got and then it's got the move instructions, the add instructions, and all that sort of stuff, right? But they've just simulated a 4-bit processor inside a PIC. It's almost sacrilege.
I think it would be pretty hard to build otherwise.
It'd be pretty hard to build on there. Yes, I totally agree. You would, that'd be pretty dense.
Yeah.
If it was actually built out of discrete logic, but I expected maybe FPGA or a CPLD or a bunch of CPLDs or something. I kind of to have a sequential processor simulate another processor is kind of like,
I mean, it's a simulation thing, but really it's about getting people to use like assembly and stuff like that, which is, I should really dig into it, but we'll see how I do. There is a way to load it from a computer, so you don't have to actually type everything in effectively, like switches, like it used to be. But
Got
damn.
It. Yeah. And then it's got a big array of LEDs is that mapping the memory?
On the far right?
Yeah. Is that mapping the memory on the LEDs?
It's a display as well.
Page 2?
That's a display, I believe. And I think you can individually address.
Okay. Oh, right. Okay. That's an output display. And
that's right.
So that's
it's kind of like
viewing the internal register.
Yeah, that'll be like the screen effectively.
Right.
Got that sort of thing. Yeah, a lot of LEDs. A lot of LEDs.
Anyway, it is very cool. I like it.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
I will be giving a talk at SuperCon called the One Engineer Dev Shop.
That kind of gives it all away.
It kind of does, huh? Yeah, there's no. The answer is maybe.
Maybe what?
Maybe it's possible. I forget what the title is actually. I think it'll be announced soon, and I'll be able to remember what I proposed.
Is there a synopsis?
Basically, that it's easier than ever to become a one-person dev shop, and how you do that. So instead of having like a multi-person company, like how much of a prototype or proof of concept you can get out the door as a one-person dev shop. So it'll be like resources and pitfalls and things like that. It'll be a lot of practical stuff, hands-on stuff that I've done in the past. It's a short talk.
Are you talking about actually doing it all yourself, or are you talking about having a network of other people to help you out?
Doing a lot of it yourself, but that's another thing about it is like, where do you draw the line there as well? Because if you're working with a CM, you have a team, to be my own worst enemy here, you're basically outsourcing your work to a team of manufacturers. much like TI executives, I like to outsource my work to a CM. I can't afford TSMC. Okay. Yeah. So basically though, like saying that like the design portion is still on you, but it's broader than just doing because you're expected to do more of the product design than it used to be, right? So it's not just the PCB anymore. Maybe you're doing more of the programming, you're doing more of the design, you're doing more of the website stuff, and just that you can really broaden out from there because of these different tools that are available, and that there are pitfalls around it.
Well, that sounds interesting. Will this be recorded?
Of course. Every talk is recorded. It'll probably be a couple weeks before that's out.
Of course.
And then I'm also giving another talk the same week, and I should really get through writing on these talks at All Things Open, which is near me in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I'll be doing demos that same night. So that's November 1st. If you're in the Triangle area, stop on by. It's a free event by Riot, which is Raleigh IoT Group. And basically it's at the Raleigh Convention Center from like 5 to 8. I'll be showing off some hardware. So
Cool bananas.
Also giving a training, because why quit there, Dave? We're doing a training at SuperCon as well. And that'll be using that virtualized server that I talked about last time we talked. So
is this a free training course, or is this a paid training course?
The training is paid, but just paying for the hardware.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. And so you have to have a SuperCon ticket, but that's at SuperCon.
Got it.
Yeah. And I think you're just paying for some or all of the hardware, and then the training is free otherwise. So
beauty.
Yeah. It's a busy couple weeks coming up for me. So yeah.
How long does it take you to prep one of these, presentations, or do you kind of put a half-ass effort in it, thinking that you can get up there and sort of something will happen on the day. You can wing it.
Luckily on the talk I'm giving here in Raleigh, I've given that talk about 4 or 5 times before, which is a new thing for me, but I'm very excited about because it gets a lot easier each time. The Hackaday talk is only 25 minutes, and I could soft shoe for about 20 minutes and then
right.
So it's just about making the slides and getting that ready to go.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So
cool.
Yeah.
So you don't actually rehearse anything, you just kind of like do the slide deck, and you kind of that'll prompt me, that slide will prompt me to say X.
It has been getting easier as I have more experience. Like I used to get extremely nervous before talks, and as I do more talks and as I just have more kind of general knowledge about the space, it gets easier over time. So my suggestion for all of you out there is, if you can, just front load all your talks early in your career, so you really get it out of the way, and you'll start to understand
Right.
more, and then
You can,
you'll feel better later.
you can get all the embarrassment out of the way and
That's right.
early on,
Just
and
start
yeah,
really small.
right.
Yeah,
Yep. Oh yeah, I'd like to do something like that here, but there's nothing here. Like there's nothing.
yeah, yeah. You live
And
pretty far away, buddy.
yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah,
And there's just doesn't seem to be any. Well, no, maybe there's no. No, I'll take that back because I know there are some meetup groups. There
yeah.
are kind
Meet
of
up stuff.
like, techie meetup groups where you could go and give a talk if you wanted to, I'm sure. If you actually approach them and say, hey, I want to give a presentation to all 8 people who show up, but there's no like,
Sure.
But that's kind of like because I've actually given talks at,
Sure.
to like 8 people, right? It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
And, but no, if you wanted something bigger scale, then there's just, I don't think there's anything here. I could be wrong. Please, send me an email if you know there is something here.
Yeah, please do. I did a remote conference that was just a couple days ago. The Espressive did a DevCon, they called it, and so I was part of that as well. So you could do remote stuff, but like,
Right. Yeah.
remote conference, like they did a nice job, but
Yeah.
the best part of conferences is not the talks. It's like it's
right.
going and hanging out with people. So
Yep. Well, you've seen in my videos when I do our yearly show here, right? The electronics show, which is our big
right,
one,
exactly,
right? And they have talks and stuff like that, but you go in there and like you're lucky if it hits double digits.
yeah,
Right? People. I mean, maybe if I gave a talk and I actually announced it and stuff, yeah, they might fill it out, maybe, which I have done at a Maker Faire one time. I did a talk at when we had a Maker Faire. We don't even have that anymore, right? I gave a talk in a Maker Faire. I announced I was going to be there, and that was packed out, right? That was like standing room only. I recorded that somewhere. It's on one of my channels somewhere, long time ago. But yeah, we don't even have that anymore. So maybe I could fill out a room, but Joe Average is not going to, without an existing established audience, isn't going to, fill out a room, unfortunately.
All right, here we go, Dave. Here we go.
Well,
I just typed in Electronics Conference Australia, December 2nd, International Conference on Electrical Engineering and Electronics. Sounds like you just signed up for that. Let's see what else.
10 people who turn up to that, right? Show me, send me a link. Send me a link.
International Conference on Big Data, IoT, and something else that got cut off.
Oh, God.
International Conference on Advances in Power. Sounds like you have a lot of like academic conferences. This is all the academic departments. Yeah. They're like, where do we want to go? How about, can we get a free flight to Sydney? I bet we could.
Definitely. There's always the IEEE, there's always, they have a branch in every state here, and they give talks. I've been to some IEEE talks, but once again, it's 10
just
people.
Put international in the conference, Dave. You have to be international. The international's in the title, so it has to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Send me a link. Where is it?
All right. Let's see. Oh, you want to like right now? I thought you meant for later.
No, I want it right now.
Oh yeah, let's see if that. It's just a Google link, so I don't know if that's gonna work.
Yep.
Electronics is on
International
there.
Conference on Embedded Electronics Engineering. Who's that run by? Who's it run by?
Yeah, I don't know how to get to these conference index. Yeah.
Ooh, more info.
WASET.org. WASET.org.
Who? WASET.
Yeah. Well, this is an old
I don't know who WASET is. Okay. There's a program in Sydney. All right. There's WASET. What? The definitive resource for trusted open science.
That sounds legit.
That either sounds legit or totally like wacky. Like those websites that claim like those journals that claim to be and they hold conferences for like wacky energy stuff and things like that. Yeah. But
one thing I actually have heard is like there's a Linux conference down there in January, I think normally.
That's one. I've never been to that, and it moves location.
John Oxter goes to that, maybe.
He goes to that. He's given talks, I think, at that. Yeah. John Oxter's. He's even like organized. Yeah, I think he organized the electronics part of it because normally it's a Linux thing, but there's sort of an electronics-y kind of branch, and I think John Oxter sort of helped found that or something. So they have like a little, cohort of people who turn up just for that, or people who they like the Linux, but they also have an interest in hardware, So there is like a little hardware spin-off element to that.
Right.
So it's possible, but yeah, there's nothing big. Like, there's nothing like, I don't know what to give a talk on anyway.
Oh yeah, there was an open hardware. Yeah, that was it. Andy Gelm and John Oxer did the open hardware mini conf as part of that.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
Well, if that happens again, you should try to.
Yeah, I should try and rock up.
Yeah.
Do something. Anyway, that's our amp hour this week.
That is, yeah, definitely. You got to run.
I got to run. I'm out of here, dude.
All right. Have a good week.
Catch you next time.